Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
We are getting you where you need to go this morning. Hopefully you'll be better informed by the time you get there and hopefully in a better mood as we finish up this very busy week in your nation's capital and launch you into a big weekend. Coming up at 6:35, Ben Wolfgang, national security correspondent and a threat status podcast host, talk about the new investigations into UFOs maybe emerging from the ocean. Have you seen this latest theory? Yeah, the aliens are under the oceans, and then they
not in space.
No, and not in the program director's office for major talk radio stations. And
the only thing that scares me is now we can't send the aliens to the water to kill them. That means they've already adapted. So
we are so screwed.
I don't know
anyway, coming up at 7:05, Dr. Robert Malone on the RFK Jr. pick for HHS. 7:35, Trevor Maddich on the Commanders' heartbreak last night in Philadelphia. And at 8:05, Jenny tear down on the border. That's Patrice Onwuka.
And it's a Friday.
And she is not an alien. And I'm Larry O'Connor. And we'll just leave it at that. Joining us right now, Ommair Butt. He is a Republican running in the firehouse primary tomorrow for that open state Senate seat out in the 32nd District. That's basically Loudoun County. Mr. Butt, thanks for joining us, and thanks for throwing your hat in. This has had to have been a whirlwind over the last 10 days.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be on air. Thank you so much for having us. Yes, it seems like a year went by in 1 week.
Yeah, I bet. Well, tell me about listen, you're a private contractor for the Army right now. Your background is in IT and software development. Tell me about your history and your experience and what sort of brought you to the position where now you say, you know what, I want to represent my neighbors down in Richmond because, well, Richmond needs some fixing.
Yeah, on my end, I have been on professional software development, information technology field for over 15 years. And I've done work in the commercial space and in the government space, worked in a variety of different government sectors. And currently I'm working with the Army. I worked for Army and Navy and Department of Home Security. From a work perspective, I've done a lot of things that I take a lot of pride in because I feel like it's my way of giving back to my country. That makes me very proud. The country that has given me and my family everything. And from a personal perspective, I have been involved in a lot of community work that has brought me to this position. This year there was a lot going on with the schools that brought my attention to do something, and especially with the bathroom policy that we have in Loudoun County Public School. That's very problematic. A lot of community members were concerned about it, and I felt like I had to do something. Well, and sometimes, you know, it takes just one person to take it upon himself, and people just rally. Rally, you know, and people find a common ground despite of your background, color, and faith, and all of that. You know, people say like, you know, we can get behind him because we have common issues, and majority of our people don't know this.
So, Ommair, I'd love for you to talk more about those issues. You mentioned the bathroom policy when it comes to boys in girls' bathrooms or vice versa. What are the other issues that you feel like are motivating your potential constituents? What are they telling you that you need to fix when you get to the State House?
Well, there's a number of issues that I have my priority list. The car tax that many people in our area don't like, and we feel like that Northern Virginia, why should we get treated so special when it comes to paying property tax, car tax, and then apart from that, the issue that we have with the Dominion Energy, they are trying to build the unsightly, putting up the unsightly electric poles in Ashburn that can potentially bring down like 30% of the home values out here. People are very disturbed about it. I want to be able to be their voice to tell them No, we can't have that, and it's very dangerous for the environment. And the people of my district don't want this. The affordable housing is a big thing. It is ridiculously expensive to live out here. It's so expensive. A common man cannot afford it. So we have to find better ways to address these issues. Jobs and economy growth is a very, very concerning issue because the way the inflation has been past few years with the previous government. Now we can say almost previous government. People are not happy, and we need to do something to continue to have economic growth that's more stable, and also have jobs, new jobs, job stability, where people don't feel like certain that we won't be able to have a better living for our kids and ourselves if the way economy is going.
Well,
so
and certainly by winning this seat, you would then bring the Senate to a 50-50 tie, giving Winsome Sears the tiebreaker.
Yes.
So all of those economic issues would certainly come to fruition by being able to swing the Senate over to Governor Youngkin's agenda for this final year of his governorship. I would like to actually get back to some of the gender and school issues that it appears really brought you into the public sphere and got you politically activated. You are you practice the Muslim faith, and you said you come from another ethnicity to come here to America and embrace our ideals. I'd love for you to talk about some of the shared values and principles that you have discovered with people. I'm sure that you are fighting these fights in Loudoun County against this school board on the racial curriculum that they're trying to push through and some of the radical gender ideology that they're pushing through. And you're fighting shoulder to shoulder with Christians, with people of the Jewish faith. But you have this shared common focus on protecting our kids. And I'd love for you to sort of express what that means to you, that how American that is, that despite your differences in ethnicity and religions, you are fighting together to protect our kids.
Oh, absolutely. When I reached out to many of the community members over the past many years, I noticed that this Loudoun County is so diverse, but so alike. Our values are so much in common. We share conservative value. It doesn't matter what faith we believe in. The conservative values are there, and many of those values are aligned with Republican values.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
that's real diversity, isn't it? Isn't
that's
that
right?
It's like, yes, we look alike, we don't look alike, we don't talk alike, we don't even practice the same religion, but what we do have in common is worth fighting with each other for.
Absolutely, and that's why people are being educated through me. That the perception many of the people we have about Republicans is much different than we may have been fed through the Democratic square tactics. Because we need to get rid of that and start looking through a different lens. And think when they hear from one of their own, their voice is much louder.
That's
and right. I'm seeing heads turn, and people have different comments and feedback, like, we didn't know we had so much in common. I'm like, yes, exactly. We've been fed. We've been fed, and we've been painted blue for so long. We need to change that.
Well, listen, this district has been represented by now outgoing state senator and soon-to-be Congressman Suhas Subramanyam. I'm really bad at his name. Sorry. Buddha Bibarai is running for this seat for the Democrats, as long as Pooja Khanna, Sri Nagi Reddy, Ibrahim Samira. Ommair Butt is running as a Republican nominee. I think it's fascinating to see the changing face and changing ethnicity in Loudoun County. And for you to represent these values and these principles and, frankly, our common interest in keeping our schools safe for our kids and keeping gender ideology out of Loudoun County Public Schools, it's going to be a fascinating race, a quick race, that's for sure. But I'm very excited about your inclusion in it, and good luck tomorrow in the primary.
Thank you so much. Really glad that I had the opportunity through the Republican Party to have this fight for our people. and I'm glad that I'm able to be their voice in one way or another to represent them. Thank you so much for having us. God bless you.
Thanks
God
for coming.
bless America.
Amen, sir. That's Ommair Butt. And tomorrow is that firehouse primary. Get the information over at the Loudoun GOP website because it's there's a lot of various things that you got to do to go and get your voice heard to get the nominee on the ticket. And again, that's Ommair Butt, last name B-U-T-T. Patrice, people are fascinated by the idea that there are alien spacecraft constantly interacting with military. Are you into this? Do you dive down the rabbit hole as these stories emerge?
I mean, I see them, I get freaked out, and then I turn on to, Teletubbies or Babies, something.
I know Tucker's
cuddly.
all over this stuff. Tucker Carlson is does the deep dive. Rogan does as well. And there's more and more evidence, or at least more and more testimony, especially from military fighter pilots who say, yeah, dude, I saw this thing, and we don't have anything like it in our military. Yeah. So this is either from another planet or possibly even worse, it's from China or Russia, and we better step up because we've seen these things, and they're doing things that we can't do. Well, in a congressional hearing earlier this week, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who has been reelected and will be coming back for another term, she raised a new wrinkle in the concerns over unidentified flying, or what are they calling them now? UAPs, unidentified alien projectiles. I think that's what no, that's not actually what it is. But here's Aliens. Lauren Boebert.
Accounts of UAPs emerging from or submerging into our water, which could indicate a base or presence beneath the ocean's surface.
I don't know about a base, but, as I mentioned, I had a different source entirely describe this pretty extraordinary footage that exists of orbs, of an orb coming out of the ocean and being met by another orb.
Some would say that there's multiple hot spots where we see frequent activity. So in your investigations, have you come across any data or visual evidence like sonar readings or underwater footage of these UAPs?
I have not beyond what's in the report.
That's terrifying.
It is.
By the way, UAPs are unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Why couldn't we just stick with flying objects?
Well, because now we know that they move under the water.
Because now they're swimming objects, I guess. Yes. So that's where they've been. So they disappear. See, they hover around and then they disappear, but they're disappearing into the ocean.
So we always assumed that they went up into space and we couldn't see them.
Right.
But
to
the
the
ocean.
mothership.
Listen, how much of this planet is covered by ocean that is, untouched, unviewed?
80%, I think. 75%.
So there could be whole colonies.
Stop it. So the truth isn't out there. The truth is down there.
It's down there, underwater.
Didn't Michael Crichton write a book about this, or James Cameron do a movie?
Got to be a
what was it?
movie.
The Deep? Wasn't that that The Abyss?
Yes.
Oh, geez. I don't need this in my life.
Yes.
Well, coming up in a bit, actually right around the corner at 6:35, we'll speak with Ben Wolfgang. He hosts the Threat Status podcast that has been following this stuff, and apparently the Pentagon is now investigating it. They followed military pilots in a mysterious drone that flew over nuclear sites, and they don't know where it came from.
So what about submarines we have that are paroling different parts of the ocean? I wonder if they see things down there. But then it's so dark.
They don't actually see things. They
or
have sonar
which captures something big and large. Maybe they would assume it's an underwater
usually a whale,
creature.
yeah.
But what if it's not?
You know that my daughter is stationed on a submarine,
I didn't
right?
want to say it, but
why are you doing this to
now.
me? I already have nightmares.
I'm kidding. There are no UFOs.
Now I got to worry about the aliens down there.
This is all fake.
Abducting
Larry.
my
Come
daughter.
on now. No, it is. She is fine. There are no UFOs. I don't think there are. I really don't. Now there are angels, and maybe they're angels living underwater,
and demons.
And there are demons.
So now I got to worry about the demons under the water abducting. Well, I always worry about demons coming after my children. All right, we'll talk to Ben Wolfgang at 6:35, and we'll get more information about the unidentified anomalous phenomenon that now apparently live under the ocean. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. 6:23.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:37, it's O'Connor and Company, and this morning is flying by at lightning speed. So just grab on tight, buckle up, because we got plenty to get to. At 7:05, Dr. Robert Malone will give us his opinion on the choice of RFK Jr. as the Health and Human Services Secretary. 7:35, Trevor Maddich on last night's Commanders game. And then at 8:05, Jenny Terr, New York Post reporter on the border. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka.
And right now, we're happy to welcome to our program Ben Wolfgang, Washington Times national security correspondent and Threat Status podcast host. Listen, we've been talking a lot about UFOs this morning.
And I've been getting freaked out about it.
It's okay, Larry. I think Ben is going to be able to allay some of those fears.
No, I just read his
not.
article, and I'm more freaked out about it.
All right, Ben, tell us about this article you have in the Washington Times. It's definitely a must-read. Apparently, the Pentagon is now saying that there have been hundreds of sightings of unexplained aircraft or whatever the case is. Please tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, look, good morning, and thank you so much for having me on, Larry. I think there might, not to freak you out even more, but some of this stuff is a little bit weird, and I think what's worth noting here right off the top is that, this is coming from congressional hearings and Pentagon reports now. So we're not talking about UFOs just, on an episode of Ancient Aliens or in some conspiracy theory subreddit. This is coming from official government sources now. And, depending on your point of view, that
hard to
might
tell
be
the difference these days, Ben. I'll be honest with you.
Increasingly so. Point well taken. But no, the report that the Pentagon put out yesterday, more than 700 reports of unidentified either aircraft or some of them in space, actually, unidentified anomalous objects, more than 700 over just the past year. They've explained roughly between 200 and 300 of them. The rest are still unexplained, including a few that trailed U.S. military aircraft, and at least 18 instances where unexplained objects believed to be drones flew over sensitive U.S. nuclear launch sites. So whether it's, extraterrestrials or maybe it's just China or Russia, there is reason to be concerned right now.
Well, just a quick follow-up. I mean, that's what I wanted to ask. Is it possible that China, Russia, or maybe some Iran, I don't know if they have that kind of money, but they're testing new weapons, new aerial products that can do surveillance or whatever the case is? I mean, you said there's a few hundred that are totally unexplained. Could it be something like that, or is it really just something out of worldly?
That's a great question. I mean, I think a lot of folks in national security and military intelligence circles, their minds immediately go there, right? And with good reason. Is this some military capability that China or Russia, some other country has that maybe we don't know about? You think back to the Chinese spy balloon just from last year. So we know they obviously want to do that. We had reports recently of drone swarms over Langley Air Force Base. So, it would be no surprise, I think, to most people if China were trying to do something like that. I tend to doubt it only because if you look at some of the videos and hear some of the firsthand accounts of what these things are actually reported to be doing in the air, if China or Russia had something like that, you would have to ask why they haven't already declared war on the United States or taken out sensitive military sites. Because some of the things that these videos, again, coming out from official Pentagon sources, things that are traveling way faster than anything the U.S. has that can just make hairpin turns at incredible speeds. If China has something like that and can field it at scale, we essentially wouldn't really have a chance against them. So that makes me kind of doubt that it actually might be one of those countries.
Speaking with Ben Wolfgang, Washington Times, we're talking about, we're going to have a whole series of hearings on this. Representative Anna Paulina Luna was in committee asking about it, as was Lauren Boebert and others. And, unlike the Chinese spy balloon, which is technology we have, I'm pretty sure. In fact, I think we had that technology in the 19th century. As what you just described is terrifying to think of one of our enemies here on the planet having that kind of technology, other than Wakanda. I do believe the nation of Wakanda is capable of doing
where
such
the
things.
Black Panther lives?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I saw that documentary. Ben, I joke about things that do make me uncomfortable. It is terrifying to think that we're being visited by such a high technological, otherworldly civilization that has the capability of doing this. How seriously is that possibility being taken by Pentagon brass?
It's a great question, and to me, I think it's actually the central question when you talk about this issue. Is this seriously being considered? It was the Pentagon on the heels of that hearing this week. They put out the report that you mentioned earlier. Right there in the top line, the executive summary of the report, they say it's important to note we have no evidence of extraterrestrials or alien life or anything of the sort. And, again, going back to the conspiracy-minded folks who might look at this and say, well, if you go out of your way to say up front that there is no evidence of that, that makes me wonder more if perhaps there is.
Yes.
That's exactly what they'd say if there was the evidence, you see.
There you go. You can go back and forth with that a million different ways, but you're absolutely right. I mean, look, you had a serious on-the-record public congressional hearing where you had serious lawmakers who were elected by people in their district asking about whether there are aliens who have secret underwater bases, whether they're interdimensional beings piloting these unidentified craft, whether we've made contact with them, whether we're storing, alien bodies at places like Area 51 or Groom Lake in Nevada. The fact that you have serious people, elected representatives, former military officials, NASA officials in public talking about this, I don't think it's out of, it's not crazy anymore to ask that question, Larry. I think you're absolutely right. Is there evidence for it? I haven't seen it beyond the unexplained videos that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Folks in the Pentagon will deny that there's evidence of that, but I don't think the questions are going to stop anytime soon.
So follow up on that, questions not stopping soon. Why are we getting this information now? Is it because we have members who are really pressing the envelope and hosting these hearings on Capitol Hill to drag that information into the public sphere? Because I feel like for decades now, we've only heard whispers and relied on Hollywood's imagination about whether the government is hiding these secrets from us.
I think so. I think you do have lawmakers, and frankly, let's be frank about it, some of them are younger and seem more open-minded to some of this stuff that, in years past might have been, dismissed as science fiction. But now a lot of them are in Congress of both parties. We're not just talking about right-wing Republicans here. There are plenty of Democrats at that hearing who were very interested in asking a lot of very probing questions, no pun intended, on some of this. Now, the question, I think, is going to be, is it just a fad or does this die out? I mean, if the government, the report that the Pentagon put out, it had a lot of interesting stuff to me, but really there were no bombshells in there. And I think if you're covering this as I am for a long time, you wonder, is this just going to slowly fade away and become another bureaucratic report the Pentagon puts out every year but doesn't really say anything? Lawmakers lose interest. We as a country have a short attention span, of course, and we forget about this in 2 years. Or it goes the other way, and there are some new bombshell revelations, new videos that come out that are unexplained that the Pentagon has to acknowledge, and this just stays at the forefront of the public discourse going forward. I don't know the answer to that, but I think as long as you have at least some people on Capitol Hill who keep this in the spotlight, it's not going to go away.
Ben Wolfgang, a Washington Times national security correspondent, also the host of Threat Status podcast. It's going to be an important byline to tag there, Ben Wolfgang's is, as well as this podcast, as some really exciting developments going on now with the advent of the Trump administration, and certainly a call for some reforms and changes over at the Pentagon. I know that you are pretty well sourced there, Ben, so you've got a lot of other stories you're sitting on that are going to develop over the next 6 months, I would argue. So you're going to have your hands full. Thank you. And, by the way, keep your eye on the chemtrails and the crop circles as well.
Well, it's worth it. Just very quickly, just to wrap up here, it's worth seeing what the Trump administration does. I mean, Trump is under pressure to declassify a lot of these UFO files. So he and the Defense Secretary nominee, Pete Hegseth, they would have the power to do that. So if they get pressure from some of these folks, that's something to keep your eye on for the next few months.
And when they do, we'll be listening to Threat Status, and we'll have you on to discuss it. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks a lot.
It's 6:45.
Donald Trump absolutely has a constitutional right to appoint members of his cabinet, and the Senate has the right to advise and consent. And they need to look at qualifications, credentials, and the character of these nominees. And Matt Gaetz is a widely disliked person, even by his Republican colleagues. True. So there may be some political will there to stop him. But I briefly want to mention he's not the only scary person who was nominated yesterday. Tulsi Gabbard, who Mitt Romney said is basically siding with the Russians. Hillary Clinton called her a Russian asset. The intelligence community is terrified of her being the director of national intelligence. So the Senate Republicans need to muster the political will to block both of these because they are not good for the country.
Alyssa Farah-Griffin, the conservative voice on The View yesterday,
know, right?
citing Hillary Clinton. and
Mitt Romney, who has fallen out of favor with the Trump rule, let's be real.
And fallen out of favor with Republican voters, frankly.
Yes, that's
but
true.
citing Hillary Clinton, calling Tulsi Gabbard a Russian asset on television. I mean, when you mentioned earlier, as they were calling Pete Hegseth on MSNBC a white supremacist, at what point do you sue? I mean, that is, I mean, you can't just dangle that out there and say, oh, yeah, she's a Russian asset. You either bring evidence of that would be a crime.
That's right.
That would be a crime against our nation. So bring the charges or shut your trap.
Well, and listen, Hillary Clinton didn't have the nation's security in mind. She was upset that Tulsi Gabbard was running against her in 2016.
Exactly.
So she's had sour grapes. Alyssa Farah is another one out there, and it's interesting that she has so much to say about Tulsi Gabbard and about Matt Gaetz, but she's barely, I would consider, in the Republican world.
Well,
so I don't think she's much of a voice.
She's found her career path by being an anti-Trump, and
never
ultimately,
Trumper.
At this point, that makes you an anti-Republican voice on the right.
The party has
such
moved.
as it is. That said, that's not even the real fast. I think that Hillary Clinton Tulsi Gabbard thing happened in 2020, not 2016.
2020.
She was upset that she was running and disrupting the primary or something. I don't know. Whoopi Goldberg, though, yesterday, that wasn't even the most outrageous thing said on The View. This is actually, I don't know if this is outrageous or this is disconcerting. I don't know what to make of it. I'll just let Whoopi take it.
This.
We all came.
I dare. Yeah, you didn't get here by yourself, man. You can't do this without us.
Yeah.
And if we don't let you, you don't get any.
Oh, it's a sex striking.
Yeah,
threat that
you
women
won't. You won't
Democrat
get
women are
any.
making.
Means basically, Whoopi Goldberg is jumping on board this idea of going on a strike, a sex strike. She's refusing to have sex with men. And
I mean, maybe some men will think that's a great thing for Whoopi Goldberg. I don't know. To each his or her own.
I'm sure they're beating down her door right now,
Hey, listen.
demanding some of that.
We do not need.
No more making Whoopi.
We do not need people getting in the middle of relationships, because this is exactly the damaging kind of rhetoric that turns people, husbands against their wives, boyfriends against their girlfriends.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what you want. You want unity. You want to talk about ending the divisiveness. Make sure that couples are together. They can hold different opinions and vote for different candidates. Get your head.
Yes. Yeah,
I will
just
stop
leave
it
it there. I'll just say this. If you're in a relationship right now and the person who is the object of your affection is withholding affection, physical affection,
That's
and
damaging.
sexual relations because of political views, get out of the relationship. It's 6:53.
Making sense of your world.
Thank you very much for covering this topic.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.